Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for the commandership of Abbotsford to bring the RCMP in. Let's hope, thanks to the mission RCMP, let's hope that the RCMP already, through all the podcasts and eyewitnesses of the EDAs and everybody that I outlined, and all the videos showing that they've already started investigations behind your back. This is probably why the RCMP mission made it clear that Vicky Hope should have outlined this. But this is why they emphasized for me to run for mayor and put it on podcasts. I want to talk to my South Asians today, all the South Asians, blueberry farmers, raspberry farmers, cabbages, and everybody. I want to outline what took place on you. I'm adamant about destroying the establishment that stopped economic growth, that held your building permits and ran your family. They preyed on your weaknesses of knowing that you wouldn't call each other out when they were elected, and that how Dave Sidhu could beg on you. But Dave Sidhu asked you to be held him accountable, and I showed you that podcast, accountable, and then turned his back on you on many issues. And he owned a newspaper that he could have stood beside you and did that. The same as Kelly Shahal. You're going to have a level playing ground, a fair level playing ground. Your raspberries and blueberries went underwater. Your crops were devastated. You couldn't get your stuff to market, and you're going to suffer. You had to increase workers this year to tie up your blueberries and raspberries all at your cost and burden in it. But the strength of you every day to carry on to survive, and I watched that. Knowing no financial help or any help by the city as they were raking out the money through Jake's contract and lifts of lands of Rom Funks and begging the province for their funds to give to their friends and enriching themselves. I watched you in your fields tying up your blueberries with your family. I had the RCMP say, look at them. They didn't lose the will to survive and fight, Mr. Pelican. That is what keeps pushing me forward. I want to tell people like the Vanderpools and Vitalis, everybody under the law has to be held accountable. There is no pass because you're a company and you're bigger. You should be watched more. What Vitalis did is a criminal offense. And what it did is it had preferential treatment, but it was involved in lifts of land, which is insider trading. Let me explain what I learned from the city, you might say the insiders of the city, on what was taking place. There was a 200% guarantee to Andy Sidhu for blocking the election and not allowing certain people in the newspaper, and Dave Sidhu putting John Doe, and holding out debates at UFV. There was a 200% guaranteed for Andy Sidhu's new house on McCallumton and Huntington to be rushed, his $3 million, on ag land without zoning and anything. Be rushed by the city bureaucrats, Peter Sparanese, Rob Isaac, and the city lawyer. Knowing that Dave Sidhu was his counsel, but the Abbotsford First Slate and Ross Siemens were a company, a group of organization. One can't say no to the other. And knowing them, and Ross knows and Henry knows that they need Dave Sidhu and Andy Sidhu for the South Asians. And you could see Henry and Patty Ross took a picture of a book signing, and Pam went on to outline that Henry's book was so good. And the book shouldn't have been about politics. Pam said it's good if you're getting into politics to read it. It should be how I got political friends and my people at the Abbotsford Police could cover up my organized crime my attempted murder, so I didn't have to serve a day in jail. I'm smarter than everybody and I'm above the law. That's the new book. And maybe Patty Ross and Pam can endorse that for him. Patty Ross is a city council that knew Dave Sidhu is Andy Sidhu's son. Patty Ross knew that the city was lobbying Vitalis to get the money for the building so Vitalis wouldn't have to pay any money. So the deal was probably this: you buy my dad's land And you would say, I'm not buying that for 6-7 million. I'm not going to buy it. More than ag. No, you buy it. We have the tools to lobby the province through Pam, which is tied to Henry, the ag. You saw what she's done to get you 25 million for free. And then we have the tools, which is Nicole Reid, the city council of Chilliwack, which is on Community Futures, which is governed by PacificCan, to make sure another 5 million comes into you, Vitalis. Well, who's going to turn that down? Who's going to turn it down? A criminal will never turn it down. And Vanderpoels and Vitalis thought they were so big. Well, I was told when I hit the first video here, you saw D8 cats and excavators scattered all through here. When I did it, it shows guiltiness. They packed up and left. City insiders told me that there wasn't even given permits to remove the ag soil on here, and they started working in here. But they're going to expedite it over the general community, because if they figure they can expedite it, meaning rush it through the city, when the building's up like Pam did on Riverside, nobody can come after it. I made it clear, and I'll tell you again today. As mayor, Vitalis will be in front of the Vanderpoels, will be in front of the court for insider trading, and they're going to lose their building. I'm going to make it clear that I'll even go against David Eby, who was going after clubhouses. Is illegal is illegal. Then I'll make it clear, was David Eby giving this money freely because he was receiving stuff out the back end, and there is no accountability like there was. He found a bunch of corrupt people, and they said, oh, I'll dump 7 million and I'll get it out, because it's sure looking like that, in my opinion, in the whole of Abbotsford. But I'll make it clear to my South Asians, really clear. Our Amrik Moran is already campaigning, and yesterday he threw a big luncheon with all the South Asians, trying to get the South Asians behind me, grouping. He's doing what Dave Sidhu did, grouping to come in when Dave had his sign out 3 months in advance and had to just put plastic over it, because Henry said to Magna, and he said to Gabriel, the electoral office, don't take a sign down. Leave it, and you could see through the plastic as advertising. I wonder if Amrik Moran's law firm paid for that luncheon, because you're not allowed to be campaigning with the team. You can announce like I am, you can announce like all mayors, but anything you're doing as a financial gain towards your campaign, and now you got to start keeping financial records. When the writ drops, then you got to be more accountable. But if he's buying lunches for his law firm to do campaigning, I'm understanding, City said they're suspecting it. When they suspect stuff of my insiders, they're always true. That he put this together. He put this lunching on, and they said maybe you should ask Amrik Moran who's got the receipt for that. Because if you went out campaigning for that lunch, Amrik Moran of Archway, and bought that, that's not for your law firm, that's political influence and political motivation for you to gain. Which now you can't write off with Revenue Canada, because that's not against your law firm. Or did Archway Community Services pay for that? You know I'm going to be after that, and you know I can find that pretty quick, and you know I will. Because people are sick and tired of your cheating, and they want to remove the establishment. Amrik Moran's out of line for all councillors. But they're trying to prey upon the South Asians. I want my South Asians to say, Amrik, let's go in front of Tracy Road, in front of Andy Sidhu's property. You sit on the police board. You've been taking pictures with Brad Viss, which is now marked. Brad Viss is marked because he endorsed Ian Black, and Ian Black failed to become the leader of the Conservative. So that promotion's no good. You're standing with the police chief. Is that so you don't get investigated being ahead of Archway? You're on Archway that embezzled all the money off the farmers during the flood, had its taxes waived as a non-profit and made profit, and you're a lawyer, went into the ledge and embarrassed the whole Conservatives, and Corky Neufeld's going to be in trouble because Caroline Finley's going to spank him. He's going to get a spanking on the monkey, and so is Armin Bangdu for doing that, bringing Liberals in and endorsing them. And then Patricia Driesing, a city council tied to Abbotsford First that zoned and did this in a partnership for Dave Sidhu, is the director, and she gets double dipping off of between the city and not doing her functions and calling people out. and waived Archways taxes as a non-profit when it made its fail. But Amrik, you need to stand here and show the South Asians preferential treatment isn't going to take place, and you couldn't do that. I'm here today because I want all the South Asians to see Amrik Moran is trying to group pull, and what he did to Joe, and I haven't even talked to Joe on Short Road, is disgusting. He knows that this man was given leniency, given fast permits, allowed to sell his land for more than what was ever given, allowed to build industrial on ag land, had the weasel, Brian Cadet, doing it that endangered people's lives, and could not argue in the ledge when Corky introduced him that, Mr. Speaker, I am here as an Abbotsford lawyer to talk about my best friend Joe, who wanted to build cold storage bigger to keep berries frozen in BC rather than shipped to California, so we got them by and back. And the Premier should speed it up through his ag minister immediately, because he's the man pulling alcohol off American shelves against Donald Trump. Couldn't do it. Because I guess the Premier, in my opinion, couldn't say, well, Joe will give us a kickback if we give him 20 million. But they found some corner piece of property. There's lots zonable in Abbotsford that's got no berries. Shoved the raspberries under and did this for who? Dave Sidhu and Andy Sidhu. Then they sat on the city, collaborated, and voted it out. This is what Darren Braun, the economic development officer, told his dad was doing. And now you see Henry with Patricia Dreesen trying to hold on. He's lost the federal, he's lost the provincial, his endorsements with Ed Fast is not working, his stuff with Mike Dion don't work, his stuff with Brad Viss don't work, and now he's back and he needs to feed at the trough. Henry never went away. That is why I kept it up. I told you that Henry has to hang on to Abbotsford City between the Abbotsford police and the politicians, because he got in his car and he tried to end my life. He fled from the scene. Then he used the Abbotsford police chief, which will get you a lot of trouble, a lot of jail, a lot of more sentences on it, to carry out threats, not carry out investigations, block the investigations, not take criminal reports, pull cameras, everything. They were smart, top investigators that only trace, we're only going after gangs, and we need a picture on Alex Mitchell's lap. When Darren Brown exposed it all, he exposed the EDA that makes millions of dollars, Amrik Moran, the EDA off a taxpayer's back. Where other non-profits and institutions have to go survive themselves. Under me, I'm going to wipe out the EDA and say, you're going to go out and make your own money. You're not going to do. But Amrik Moran wants to use the South Asians like Dave Sidhu did and turned his back. When they asked Dave Sidhu to come up in behind Lou's Barn Grill, them South Asians on their homes being damaged to get in the newspaper, he couldn't do that because he was with Henry Brown. When they asked Dave Sidhu for anything, he couldn't show, and the same with Kelly Shahal. We got to show when you're elected as a servant of the people and you have installed on this mass magnitude that you go where criminals go. And I would expect, I could never get it from Colin Watts or Paul Wanker because I saw the endangerment on the Mackenzie Bog. But I knew the mission RCMP, knew what insider trading was, knew the kid wasn't supposed to be in front of him, knew these guys were politically tied way up top because it was holding out RCMP from being ordered to taking in. And this one here, Amrik Moran, this one here, and you want to ask to be a city council. You want to ask to be a city council. And now, setting up funds and everything else. Maybe you should ask Manji Soye if he wants to join you. Maybe you should go ask Suki Dami, that watched his South Asians destroyed and all their berries and hard work, that you need his support, and maybe ask him. Maybe you should now go back and have another conversation to Joe and show him this and say, Joe, please, uncle, just get me in, uncle, and I'll change it all. You have to stand up, and you have to be accountable, and you have to show the Abbotsford residents like George Ferguson did and great leaders that you're not here at the last minute to get the juicy pot, but you're here to show from the beginning that you won't allow this. This is what I've been doing for my farmers with Abbotsford residents. This is what I did when Barty Sandhu, as a good, tremendous person, called out Abbotsford First and Sandy Blue, that I stuck my hand up her dress and it grabbed her on that whipper-whapper. And who hires her? the chief, because he likes, in my opinion, grabbing whipper-whappers and not allows in a democratic process where you're picked. They load her on the board with Erwin Braun. And who used to be there? Mark Warkentine. And who's there now? Amrik Moran. Amrik Moran. And I made it clear to Abbotsford, ain't it pretty funny that when you search these people's career, 25 years as a lawyer, 25 years, Archway Community Services, and the police. And he lobbies this in the ledge, and then Corky plans it. When he enters, Corky, you say I'm running for city council. I'm running for the city council of Abbotsford, and I get a big applause. I wonder how many South Asians are going to stand up and applaud this. I wonder if Amrik Moran has cut a deal, Dave Sidhu. I won't call that out or say anything. I need the advertising in the South Asian newspaper with Andy Sidhu, and I need you to start lobbying a group behind the back to get it. I don't think Dave Sidhu has got the juice anymore. His head's down. You see Kelly Shahal heads down. You can see the picture of Patty Ross. She looks bad. She looks bad. Worries all over her face. And Mark Warkentine, I mean, that guy just looks worried, really worried. He looks really worried. Abbotsford's got to come to a conclusion without their help in the RCMP. These guys were doing heinous acts, worse than gangs and worse than any mob, to control power, make sure things were designated their area than to them, and originate themselves. Speed permits and fast-track stuff to them. Harm my farmers and harm the South Asians that were going through processes to get building permits, putting them on the back burners, racist acts and everything. And Amrik, I suggest maybe you come out here with Les Barkman that wants to ask Abbotsford for another term. I don't think Les deserves another term. Les knows that he doesn't deserve another term. Les wants to try to fool the people. Les knows he don't need another term, and he knows Abbotsford First was a city slate, and Les should have stood up and called this out. Now, I would be affected, Amrik, for you to be a good politician, a good counsel. You would come here and you would start your podcast from day one here. But using the South Asians ain't gonna work. Playing them ain't gonna work. Running around, it's always about you, and you could see it was about you. You weren't taking a one issue about them. You should have did Joe as a major issue being blocked. You should have went to the Mackenzie Bog of all them South Asians. You should have went to many farms of how many illegal vehicles, and you're a lawyer, you know you can't have anything criminally illegally on ag land and everything, and 500 cars, and all the dump trucks were blocked. You should have went up to behind Louis Bar and Grilled and saw them South Asians. There's many issues, Amrik. There's many issues. You're not a politician. You fell in line with the establishment, and you're willing to try to fool Abbotsford residents. That ain't working. It ain't gonna work. You need to come here with Brad Viss and get his endorsement. So I want to ask my South Asians. You want somebody to lead you. You want somebody to look after you. Somebody that can speak for you. Somebody that doesn't cause you harm. Somebody doesn't do pressure and for treatment. Somebody that'll bring the authorities in and charge counselor like Dave Sidhu and Ross Siemens at Abbotsford First, because this was benefiting them. When you're the man out there paying big mortgage payment. Understand this. Andy Sidhu walks away with millions of dollars on a free ride, gets a new place built for free, gets to take life, the rest of his life easy on all this insider trading, and walks away with the taxpayers going good on it, gets his land developed and everything else fast-tracked and everything, where you got to work your fingers to the bone, where you got to bring foreigner workers in, you got to fix your raspberries for the floods. And Amrik Moran, a lawyer that knows about law, knows about principles, a lawyer, upholds, and his first duty is to the law, no matter what he does. Knows that these acts, and he wants to put his name forward. He should be asking the RCMP to investigate Archway, which Mr. Pelican has made loud and clear. Rob Santiago will be under criminal investigation so fast. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia, Tracy Road, and I want Amrik Moran to bring the South Asians here, because my plan, Amrik, my plan is to all the South Asians, even to your wife and family that grew up in this town, to show And she's going to look you right in the face and say, you better back out, Amrik. This one's going to hit you. Your own family will tell you that. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia.